I don't want to spend my entire life being the same version of myself. Like, what fun is that? Because how could I possibly attract something different if I didn't become someone different? If my 32 years of life have taught me one thing, it's that if we like it, we don't care who loves it. Testing 1, 2, 3. At the beginning of this year, I made one decision that would change the trajectory of the entire year and honestly, even my entire life. And that simple decision was to do one tiny thing every single day that would surprise me. And it really did start off super tiny, like getting up off the couch when I felt super lazy to fill up my water bottle, or deciding to try something again when I had previously said that I already didn't like it. Since starting this tiny challenge, I have literally transformed into 50 plus different versions of me. I know we all talk about being unrecognizable, but I literally do not recognize who I was last month. Like, that's how fast it's changing. It's like every single time I feel like I've fallen in love with myself, I unlock a new version of me that I'm even more in love with. And if you want that, I want to talk you through the 3 rules that I've followed for the past year and I'm still following so that I can continue to fall in love with myself and ensure that every new version of myself is someone that I'm so proud of and so in love with. If you're new here, my name is Rima. I'm your tough, loving big sis who takes her own advice, and you are now tuned in to another episode of Rima's Rules. If you want extra credit for this video, you could even do something that surprises you right now while you're watching it. You could literally get up and go walk on the treadmill if that's not something that you usually do, or clean a portion of your house that you've been wanting to clean because that will surprise you. Let this video be an inspiration to take action and actually start working on becoming that version of you. But anyway, let's get into these 3 rules, and I hope that by the end of this, you'll be really, really inspired to take me up on that tiny yet transformative challenge. Rule number 1 is that your life is simply a mirror. I'm going to virtually hold your hand while I say this, but if you don't like who you are, it is because of you. Not your toxic man, not your traumatizing upbringing, not your suffocating apartment or even more suffocating hometown, not your digestive issues. It's you, my love. If you've been keeping up with my In Those Jeans challenge, you know that I've struggled with body image and kind of like yo-yoing with my weight loss for over 16 years, which yes, I'm turning 32 in a month. That's literally half of my life. In a weird way, I'm actually very grateful that that's part of my story, because had it not been for me trying and failing at something for over 16 years, I don't think that I would have realized that I'm the drama. Because honestly, so many things in my life that I've wanted when it came to career or when it came to education or relationships have been so straightforward for me. I don't want to say they've been easy, because I've put in a lot of hard work to get to some of the accolades that I've been able to achieve, but they were straightforward. And what I mean by that is I felt like the work that I put in, I got out. But when it came to my weight stuff, if you would have asked me about a year ago or even more, if the work that I put in, I got out, I would have said no. And that's not because that was true. Okay. Your girl was overeating. I just was deluding myself into believing that my results were due to someone else or something going on in my body that just makes me weird. I know it's so cliche to talk about victim mode, but that's truly what I was in. I was in victim mode. And what that really means is that you're just blaming something outside of you. And I really am here to tell you, my love, that your circumstances, whether it's the zip code that you were born into, the parents that you had growing up, the health conditions that you either developed or were born with, none of those things are your fault. They're not your fault. But that doesn't mean it's not your responsibility to manage those things and not allow any of those things to get in the way of you liking who you see in the mirror, whether it's figuratively or literally. It's truly only your responsibility to figure out how to like your life. Nobody else can do that for you. If you're not ready to accept the truth that if you don't like you, it's because of you, to be honest, this video is not for you. I mean that with love. I'm usually like the tough love queen, but I really don't even mean that with tough love. I mean that with like love. I don't know that I would have been ready for this video a few years ago. I'm not gonna lie. I think I would have needed to hear it, especially when I felt like I wasn't ready for it. But if it's just hitting a little too hard for your own sake, I would swipe off, because if you can't get out of a place where you're blaming everything and everyone else, you're not gonna be able to apply what we talk about today. You're certainly not gonna be able to do things that surprise you every day. day because you're going to be stuck in blaming everything around you for why you don't like your life. There's probably a good reason for why you're not ready to accept responsibility. I know for me, for the longest time, I would not accept responsibility around why I wasn't keeping my weight off because the truth would have hurt me a little bit too much. And what was the truth in my case? The truth was, and this is actually, by the way, if you are watching my other series, why I've incorporated the snitch cam is because what I'm about to tell you right now. The truth is your girl was overeating. Like I was over snacking. If you put a bag of chips in my hand, it would disappear like a magic trick within literally 3 minutes. Your girl can eat, but I would magically like pretend that those calories never happened. And the reason that I would do that is so that if I gained the weight or if I wasn't able to lose the weight that I wanted to, I would not be able to blame myself. I would just blame there's something wrong with my body. I'm working out so much. I've been tracking all my calories, even though I would very conveniently leave out the calories that would take me over my calories when I did that. And I would genuinely be so delusional to believe that there's just something wrong with me, that I'm just like, woe is me. There's just something so wrong with my body where if I follow calories in, calories out, that seems to work for everyone. It just doesn't work for me. And the reality is I was hiding that from myself and deluding myself because my internal narrator at the time was so mean that if I was just honest with myself and if I took responsibility, it would have a lot to say about the decisions I was making, and I was not ready to hear that. So in a way, my little Delulu situation over there of playing victim was helpful because I'd rather be victim than be bullied. Understand that it might feel easier for you to blame other people or other circumstances than to blame yourself because your bully, your internal narrator is probably going to abuse you or attack you. So you might want to then instead just work on really analyzing how that voice comes through. And I think for me, I needed to kind of like have a tough, loving voice. That was the most accessible thing for me because going from a bully to just being so compassionate and loving was not accessible for me. But going from a bully to a tough lover, someone who truly starts from a place of love and compassion, but like the love kind of comes across a little aggressive sometimes, that felt very accessible to me. And that was what was able to make me get to a place where I took personal responsibility and actually started changing my life. And honestly, as harsh as it might sound to you right now, I can literally think of nothing more empowering than deciding that if you don't like things, then you can change them. And that was the case for me. Rule number 2 is that you can literally become whoever you want. This has been the most groundbreaking realization for me in 2024 is that I can literally become whoever I want. I used to do this really toxic thing where I would just make these very absolute statements about myself. And I didn't really realize it, but they were very limiting things. Like I would say, I'm not a runner. I have really bad endurance. Or I can't dance is a recent one that I'm working on. Or something like, I'm a perfectionist. It's just how I was raised. And as I'm going through this rule, I want you to think of little seemingly harmless things that you also say. Do you talk about, I'm not a morning person? Do you say, I can't drink black coffee? I literally just told someone that this morning, actually. So I'm calling myself out as I go through this because, I take my own advice. So I just want you to think of a couple things that seem harmless that are things you say out loud, but might not be things that you want to be true about yourself necessarily. And in my case, honestly, I used to think it made me super self-aware, super honest and transparent, even super vulnerable to say things like that to other people. But now that I look back, I realize it was just a defense mechanism. I wanted to give myself and others these very predictable guidelines or expectations so that I didn't disappoint other people, or in reality, so that I didn't dislike myself for those things. So if I could just put them out on Front Street, people wouldn't judge me for it, aka I wouldn't judge myself for it, right? I wouldn't judge myself. If I was just so open about, I can't really dance, then when I go to a wedding and I'm on the dance floor, I'm not going to really judge myself as much when I don't feel like I can dance. And the craziest part about that is I just started reading this book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And one of the things that the author talks about at the beginning of that book is the difference between conscious thoughts and subconscious thoughts. He uses the metaphor of like a conductor on a ship or like the people who are working for that person. Let's use a more simple metaphor because I'm going to mess up the ship one. It's like a CEO versus like the people that work for them. Apparently, your conscious thoughts are the CEO. They're the shot callers. They're the ones telling everyone what to do. And your subconscious thoughts are literally just the people who are taking the orders and doing it. And why does that matter? Okay, it matters because if I tell myself that I suck at dancing, then my subconscious thought is just going to take that truth or that belief and just run with it and therefore create it into my life. And so if I'm telling myself that I can't lose weight, then my subconscious thoughts, like the employees that they are just going to be like, she can't lose weight. Okay, that's what the boss said. The boss said that she can't lose weight. So we got to make sure she can't lose weight. The boss said that if she gets a bag of chips in her hands, then she needs to eat it. So next time she has chips in her hands, she needs to eat it. We're just following orders. We're just doing our job. And when I read that, I was so fascinated and also simultaneously so proud of myself for doing this little challenge that I told you guys about, because indirectly I was kind of rewiring my brain to not say things that are absolute about me because I was changing so rapidly. Oh, you want to say that when I get on the couch I can't get up? Bet, watch me do it right now. Oh, you want to say that when I'm at this function I'm going to be really embarrassed to dance? Bet, watch me go on this dance floor and dance right now. Like, this is literally making me want to start drinking black coffee tomorrow just because I said so. And I think it's just reminding yourself, your internal narrator, your subconscious brain, who's actually in charge. I'm in charge. Actually, the only reason any of this stuff has been happening is because I said so. And now that I know that, I'm going to be a lot more deliberate and a lot more intentional about what I say. And that is literally the whole entire point of this rule, is understand, my love, you can become anyone you want right now. You can change. Literally right now. You can change right now. If there's something about you that you don't like, then you can literally decide to change that. And I know that we say that a lot, but I want it to make sense for you. Like, the only reason that thing is persisting is because you've told yourself that you can't change it. What happens if you tell yourself that you're different now? That's kind of a line that if you've been watching my videos, I keep repeating. I'm different now. I don't even give a shit if anyone else sees that, by the way. Like, I'm not in a place right now where I'm trying to convince anyone else. I say that to myself. I'm reminding myself, my past selves, the patterns that I've been so accustomed to, the habits and the self-sabotaging behaviors that I used to think I was so victimized by. That's who I'm talking to. It's kind of like I'm out bullying my internal bully, which is something, by the way, I used to love growing up, is if I met a bully, I would try to bully them into stop being a bully. So it kind of works for me. It's like, you're not going to tell me shit. I'm different now. Don't you see? You can't control me. You're never going to control me. You're never going to win at this. If you try to tell me that I'm going to do something based on how I've done it in the past, I'm going to literally show you otherwise. You're never going to shackle me in who I've been before because I'm different now. If you take nothing else from this video, I want you to remember that predictability is literally the enemy of transformation. I just made that up. But literally, predictability is the thing standing in your way of becoming someone that you like. If the current version of you is someone you don't like, I'm here to tell you that attaching to predictability is going to guarantee that you never like yourself. Because think about it. If you are literally playing the same thoughts and feelings and actions on repeat, how are you ever going to become someone different? How are you ever going to like yourself if you're just drawing on who you've been before to determine who you can be tomorrow? So if you are open to the idea that you can become anyone you want, and I'm not saying that you can become anyone you want overnight, but what I'm saying is you can decide to become anyone you want overnight. Deciding that you're not going to be that past self and you're going to be open to becoming someone different can literally happen right now. You can decide that right now. And in order to be open to that, you need to also be open to unpredictability, which brings me to our final rule, rule number 3. Be unpredictable and embrace spontaneous joy. This was hard for me, my love. This one was hard for me, and it's still hard for me. This is the one that I'm most diligently practicing right now because it has in the past felt least natural to me. See, we're rewriting the narrative. I was about to say it feels least natural to me. In the past, it has felt least natural to me, but the new version of me is really embracing being more spontaneous and being happy about when things are unpredictable. And to be honest, the older I get, the more I realize that my younger self had it right. And I know a lot of us, especially in this space, talk about our younger self, our inner child. And to be real, I didn't really know what that meant outside of just the obvious, like do it for your inner child or heal your inner child. To me, just meant heal the version of you that was the most pure or most innocent or most vulnerable, right? But it's actually so much deeper than that, is what I'm realizing. For me personally, my younger self, my inner child, was the most creative and therefore the most open to unpredictable outcomes. I used to be obsessed with routines and predictability and even productivity, especially efficiency. Like I was raised in a family like that where we just looked for ways to be more efficient. We looked for ways to just work smarter, not harder. And I'm not saying any of that is bad, but my over attachment to that led me to find very predictable, almost robotic routines for myself. When I started learning about Joe Dispenza, especially the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I realized that he literally talks about that. He talks about how you have to be open. Did my camera die, or is this just a new reality that we've unlocked? I'm just kidding. Okay, so basically, as I was saying, if you are someone who's been attracting at a specific level, you're just going to continue recreating the kinds of things that you would attract at this level. And this is where the importance of unpredictability comes in. Because if you want things that you've never had before, in my case, it's not the weight loss itself, because I've done that, but it's the maintenance of that weight loss. It's holding the identity of the person who has that body and feels good in it. Because even when I had lost weight in the past, I wouldn't allow myself to feel good in it. And that just kind of lets you know right there about where I was vibrating. Because if I wasn't feeling good along the way, then how can I maintain something that feels good? I was feeling bad. So that was my vibration. I'm just going to either A, continue producing things that make me feel bad, or even if I am bringing in things that are supposed to make me feel good, my perception of them is not going to allow me to feel good about them because I'm feeling bad. Even when we think about like a job promotion or a new relationship that you've never been able to have, you have to become someone you have never been if you want to get things or attract things that you've never before had. Predictability was very much so keeping me stuck. My obsession with predictability, my attachment to these predictable routines every single day, my almost like negative association with doing something a little bit different than how I normally did it. I would feel like, well, that's not how I normally do this when I wake up. So if I do that instead, that's me not being productive. That was actually keeping me stuck, because how could I possibly attract something different if I didn't become someone different? And this is why rule number 1 is so important to accept, because if you accept that you are the creator of your own reality and therefore your reality is literally just mirroring who you are, then it would be so obvious that you just need to be someone different to create something different. That's just the laws of logic. But if you are stuck in a place where you are blaming all of these outside forces, then you're adding too many things into the equation to complicate it. And I can totally see from that place why it's so difficult to convince yourself to change or embrace unpredictable things or become someone different or try something new, because you're too busy blaming your parents. And so you don't think that you trying something new or being someone different is going to produce those results. You're instead trying to control your environment or control your parents and the way they think. That is why you're so stuck, is because you're not focusing your energy on the only thing that's ever going to produce different results for you, and that is you. So when it comes to embracing spontaneity, when people used to say like, embrace your feminine energy and just do different things and try new recipes and I didn't really understand it. Again, I thought it was nice and cool and sure, like a great way to be more creative, especially when I read the book, The Artist's Way. I started kind of doing it because it was framed as a way to become a more creative person. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to be more creative and get good ideas from just doing the same exact thing. But I didn't realize how connected even that was to quantum physics until I actually hired this energy coach. And she's kind of like a manifestation coach that I've been working with. And she had me do this like meditation / visualization where I kind of like step into my higher self during the meditation. And one of the directions that she gives in that meditation is when you wake up from your meditation as your higher self, as this person that you've envisioned so clearly, when little urges start to come your way, like little things like telling you, go go on a walk, or, listen to this playlist. She's like, follow that, because those are little urges that are coming from your new self, from the vibration that you're now putting out into the world. You're now putting out a different energy, and that different energy is bringing things to your attention that your old self would not have really magnetized. So when she started telling me to do that, I'm like, okay, cool, kind of makes sense. But the urges seem to be so random. And once again, my very productive, routine-based brain was like, why would I just go walk to Target right now? Like, what is that going to do for my goals? I'm trying to build a career on YouTube. I'm trying to lose weight. Like, these are the things that I care the most about. Why is walking to Target? Okay, fine. Like, I guess I could see the walk part. And then I'm like, stop rationalizing, because you're rationalizing it through your old way of thinking, through what's predictable. It doesn't need to make sense. If this is the urge that you got, and if it feels exciting and if it feels fun, which it did, I love Target, then just do it. So I walked to Target. I got a couple things that I felt like I needed for the house. And then on the walk back was when I also got this random desire to make a completely different dish than what I was planning on making that night. And it's like a traditional dish. I talked about it in my last video. And I'm like, you know what? I actually can make it. I have all the ingredients for it. It felt so fun. And once again, I am really breaking this habit of trying to rationalize everything and trying to fit every single thing I do into this very predictable mold that I'm so used to. Every single time I follow an urge like that, as random as it seems, I walk out of that experience feeling like a different person. I am a believer, and I'm such a believer in God. And I've always said this growing up, even, is like, especially when you don't understand, God has your back. God's protecting you. You don't always have to understand. And also said things like, give God room to surprise you. That's basically the premise of what I'm saying right now. I don't have to understand how me making a traditional dish from back home is helping me become my dream self. I left that to God. I said, this is what I want. This is who I want to become. So now God is bringing these urges to me, and I just need to trust that they're not as random as they seem. And even now that I'm thinking about it, like, I was on the phone with my grandma this morning for 30 minutes. We were just talking about recipes and food. And that is, my grandma lives in Lebanon. And that is something that I wouldn't have been able to talk to her about if I didn't take a picture of the dish that I created last week and send it to her. And I know she was so excited to talk about it because she's teaching me about the recipes that she makes and the traditional food that she loved to cook. She's not in a state health-wise where she can get up and do that, but in some way, I feel like she was kind of like really enjoying the conversation in the moment, and maybe even the thought of her American granddaughter making these traditional meals at home. I'm not even trying to predict why that matters, right? I'm really not doing that anymore. But I just have so much trust, not just in God, but even in myself when I follow these urges. Every single time I follow one of those very seemingly random urges, like go take a random walk in the park during your workday, or go buy flowers and put them in your apartment. Every single time I do that, I just like myself better. Not just during it, but even afterwards. Like, I truly feel like I like the version of me that is breaking the predictable pattern and becoming someone new. And it really, really, really works. So I want you, my love, to build that self-trust as well by embracing those spontaneous moments of joy, because they are not as random as they seem. Nothing was more empowering for me at the beginning of this year than just deciding that I get to change whenever I want. I get to become someone different whenever I want. I don't need to accept other people's limiting beliefs on me. And more importantly, I don't need to accept my own limiting beliefs on myself. I get to literally spend this life becoming whoever the hell I want. I get to change my mind as many times as I want to change my mind. I used to be someone who didn't care for flowers. Now I buy them every single week. I don't know. I just take so much pride in saying stuff like that. I used to be someone who this, but now I'm this. And it's not even just about productivity or becoming more productive or becoming healthier, because like all that stuff is great, but it's just for the sake of change in and of itself. Like, I'm someone who really wants to live life. Like, I want to feel like I lived my life. And I can think of nothing more exciting than just occupying that time as several different people. Like, I want to grow into several different people in my lifetime. I don't want to spend my entire life being the same version of myself. Like, what fun is that? I want to feel like I lived my life allowing myself to explore whatever things felt exciting to me, because that's what makes me like myself and it makes me trust myself. And honestly, that's really, to me, the definition of unconditional love, is just allowing yourself to change and allowing yourself to become whoever you want to be, even and especially if yesterday you said you didn't want to be that person. And I want that for you too, my love, because a lot of times we don't realize we're just in our own way. We try to convince ourselves that we're so afraid that other people are not going to let us be this, or if I try to do this, I'm going to get pushback, or if I become this, other people are not going to be okay with that. And while that might be true, sometimes we magnify that in our heads because really we're just afraid. Really, we don't know if we're going to accept ourselves. Because I promise you, if my 32 years of life have taught me one thing, it's that if we like it, we don't care who loves it. If we are okay with it and if we're at peace with it, we literally could not care less if other people are okay with it. And anytime I find myself fixating on how other people feel about my life, it is just a sign to me that that is an area of my life that I, between me and myself, have not yet made peace with. So understand that anytime we're trying to blame or project or even draw our attention outside of ourselves, it's just a map letting us know how to navigate back here and work on whatever conversations or mindset shifts need to happen between you and yourself. I really, really, really love you so much. Like, this was a freestyle video because, again, I'm taking my own advice and I'm just like going off of my urges. And I was literally doing my makeup this morning and I was like, I want to record something. And then I'm like, okay, but I didn't write anything out. And I'm like, okay, but that's fine. I could just freestyle. But then I was like, okay, cool. But then I realized my camera wasn't charging. So I started charging my camera, LOL. And so then I just started writing some notes, and this was just what free-flowingly came to me. Like, I literally wrote the notes for this video literally in less than 3 minutes. So if you enjoyed this video and if you loved it and if you felt like it was good, just take this as an example in and of itself of how spontaneous joy can lead to something so beautiful and impactful, not just on yourself, but on others. I do want you to try the challenge. Please let me know if you try it. Just something tiny. Just do it once. You don't have to commit to doing it on repeat, but just today, within 24 hours of watching this video, I just want you to do a tiny thing that surprises you. And if you feel so compelled to let me know what that is, I would actually love to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. Let me know either something you're committing to do that's surprising to you or something that you've already done that surprises you, and let me know how it felt for you. Anyway, my love, I am not going to tell you to like or subscribe because I know you hear that way more than enough. But what I will say is, if you enjoyed this video, then bring a friend with you next time. Let's leave people even more powerful than we found them. I love you so, 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 so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.